The battle to end corruption at the federal government is continuing to intensify. On Friday, in the dead of night, U.S. District Judge Paul Engelmayer issued a ruling. In it, he blocked all political appointees, special government employees, and employees detailed from external agencies from accessing Treasury Department records containing sensitive personal and financial information. This included blocking the actual Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, from accessing his own Department of Treasury data. And the judge went further. He also mandated the immediate destruction of any copies of materials downloaded from the Treasury Department. In other words, destroy any data or evidence that they have collected. This would not only sabotage DOGE, but also the Trump administration's effort to clean up the vast corruption that seeps through every pore of the federal government. Now, there are many things wrong here, but let's focus more on the ethical and legal concerns. First, the destruction of evidence you see, even when court-ordered, raises significant legal and ethical issues. If allegations of misconduct or misuse of the data arises in the future, the judge having ordered the destruction of such evidence would severely hamper any investigation. And the very act of destroying government records, even if it's just a copy, even under court order, may be perceived negatively by the public. In fact, it's not maybe, it would be. This will further erode trust in both the judicial system and the government's commitment to transparency, which of course they have done a terrible job of doing over the last number of decades. And perhaps equally egregious in all of this is the judge's blatant overreach here, his usurpation of the executive branch of government's authority and power. Judge Engelmayer's ruling improperly constrains the executive branch and their legitimate powers. The argument against the judge's actions is this: by preventing DOGE from accessing Treasury data, the judge is essentially interfering with the president's ability to manage the executive branch and implement the policy priorities that he decides is important. In essence, the judge's ruling is a blatant abuse of power from the judiciary branch. And so the Trump administration decided that this will not stand, and they are coming out swinging. This is from Fox News, published this morning by Landon Mion. He writes, Trump administration files motion to vacate restraining order prohibiting DOGE access to Treasury payment systems. The Trump administration is accused of illegally providing DOGE with unauthorized access to the Treasury Department's payment systems.
19 states' attorneys general filed a lawsuit, and early Saturday, a judge agreed with them to restrict Elon Musk and his government efficiency team, DOGE, from accessing Treasury Department payment and data systems. They said there was a risk of irreparable harm. What do you make of that? And does that slow you down on what you want to do?
No, I disagree with it 100%. I think it's crazy. And we have to solve the efficiency problem. We have to solve the fraud, waste, abuse, all the things that have gone into the government. You take a look at the USAID, the kind of fraud in there,
and you found significant things.
Well, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars of money that's going to places where it shouldn't be going, where if I read a list, you'd say this is ridiculous, and you've read the same lists, and there are many that you haven't even seen. It's crazy. It's a big scam. Now, there's some good money, and we can do that through any one of a number. I think I'd rather give it to Marco Rubio over at the State Department. Let him take care of the few good ones. So I don't know if it's kickbacks or what's going on, but the people, look, I ran on this, and the people want me to find it. And I've had a great help with Elon Musk, who's been terrific.
Bottom line, you say you trust him.
Trust Elon? Oh, he's not gaining anything. In fact, I wonder how he can devote the time to it. He's so into it. But I told him do that. Then I'm going to tell him very soon, like maybe in 24 hours, to go check the Department of Education. He's going to find the same thing. Then I'm going to go to the military. Let's check the military. We're going to find billions, hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud and abuse. But I campaigned on this, Brett.
The Trump administration, he writes, has filed a motion to vacate or modify a court's temporary restraining order blocking the Elon Musk-led Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, and political appointees from accessing sensitive Treasury Department payment records. In the motion, Cloud Software Group, Inc. CEO Tom Krause argued that, quote, it is important that high-level political appointees, such as the Treasury Secretary, Deputy Secretary, Chief of Staff, and Undersecretaries, retain the ability to attend briefings concerning information obtained from the data or systems from Treasury employees, with appropriate access to the data or systems in order to perform their job duties. He went on to say that these high-level officials do not ordinarily need to receive access or to review data from such systems. But he said that the event could conceivably occur and that could warrant them needing access. In the meantime, calls for impeaching Judge Engelmayer are growing on social media. If you watched yesterday's episode, you'd know that Elon Musk, who heads DOGE, has been at the forefront of these calls for impeachment. He took to X to express his outrage at the judge for his corruption, saying, "A corrupt judge shielding corruption." And he said he needs to be impeached now. And in a separate post, Musk referred to Engelmayer as, quote, "an activist posing as a judge." And the calls for impeachment have gained traction both within the Trump administration and with his supporters. For example, Vice President J.D. Vance amplified a social media post questioning the judge's authority, suggesting that judicial interference with executive branch operations infringe upon the separation of powers. You had Utah Republican Senator Mike Lee remarking that Engelmayer's decision had, quote, "the feel of a coup. Not a military coup, but a judicial one." And then, of course, there were the pro-DOGE sentiment on social media, with many social media users, particularly those aligned with the Trump administration and Elon Musk, expressing their outrage at the judge's decision. And many were supporting the calls for impeachment, echoing that of Elon Musk. On the other hand, there were naturally supporters of the judge's decision, and there were many, primarily following on their political lines. There was the concern over the potential privacy and implications of DOGE's access to, quote, sensitive Treasury data. And there were those who supported the 19 Democratic state attorneys generals who filed the lawsuit, which sparked this whole crisis in the first place. And they called it a necessary check on executive power. And so the issue is raging all over platforms like X and others, with hashtags related to DOGE, Judge Engelmayer, and government efficiency trending. But regardless of this particular fight in the war to stop DOGE and or stop corruption, depending which side of the aisle you're on, the Trump's team is continuing to just forge on ahead, blazing a path forward, unstoppably leveling corruption and waste in their path. Why, even this morning, the UK Daily Mail published an article discussing yet another $180 million in contracts from the Health and Human Services which were cancelled by DOGE. DOGE announced on social media, the UK Daily Mail writes, Friday, that it cancelled 62 contracts at the HHS over the course of 48 hours. These contracts were entirely for administrative expenses. None touched any healthcare programs, DOGE wrote. This included terminating a $168,000 contract for an Anthony Fauci exhibit at the NIH Museum. The move to defund a museum exhibit honoring the doctor came just days after Musk's team at DOGE were seen at the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, where they received access to key payment and contracting systems. CMS, part of the Department of Health and Human Service, is a major distributor of healthcare payments. The center sent out about $1.5 trillion in fiscal 2024. Now, with around 6,700 employees, it oversees Medicare, the healthcare coverage for older and disabled Americans, and Medicaid for lower-income people. Musk wrote about this agency saying, "Yeah, this is where the big money fraud is happening." But Musk's group has been causing controversy with many Democrats who are protesting the cuts to government and the layoff of federal workers. The Democrat Party doesn't want any cuts to waste and spending. That is the hallmark of the entire Democrat Party as it is constituted today. Now, unions have started filing lawsuits, the Daily Mail writes. Democrats have questioned if Musk has any oversight. But Trump said the billionaire owner of X is only acting with his approval. He added that his administration is keeping the SpaceX founder, who has billions in federal contracts, from interfering in any area where there is a conflict of interest. Trump said at the Oval Office last week that Elon will not do anything without our approval, and we will give him the approval where appropriate. And so the battle continues. Despite every desperate attempt at roadblocking the Trump administration by the Democrat Party, the president and his team continue to forge ahead. It's the equivalent to putting your finger in a dike to stop a leak, only to find that there are literally 1,000 more leaks popping up all around you. The left is scrambling to find an answer to Trump, and the best they've come up with so far is judicial activism.